Hello and good night. You just caught us in our early conversations. Welcome to Books and Bush Tea. Thank you for your patience tonight. We were just a couple seconds behind. We've got a lot going on this evening. I just wanted to share what it's been like this day because today's been a little crazy for Books and Bush Tea. We were invited to spend time with the parliamentarians of West Bay who were hosting an event for Women's Month. And that was actually really, really lovely. But it was a crazy day because I was writing my speech up until 5 o'clock. And I needed to be there by 6 o'clock to be able to present at 6 o'clock. So it was a hell of an interesting ride to West Bay. So, and then of course I hadn't printed it, what a day it's been. But we made it. We had a lovely time in West Bay and then made our way back to this side of the island just in time because I had to get out of there by 7 to be able to get here in time for 8 o'clock for a show. So it's been a busy day. And of course, we were talking about books. We were talking about writing. And the message today was about balance and harmony. Harmony and balance, the theme for the event at the John Gray Memorial Hall. I think that might still be going right now. But it was a lovely, lovely evening. I won't lie. It really was a lovely evening. So my contribution to the conversation was, as I sip my bush tea, what we need to be doing to preserve our culture and the role of women. And, it was such an interesting thing to write it because I hadn't really thought about it before. But Cayman's culture was created by women. The men weren't here. And now that we're all a more present society, now it's time for us to co-create what that looks like here now. But we've done it before as women. It's time for us to now support and actually carry our weight and making sure that we're carrying our culture forward. So a couple of things we looked at. We looked at the threats. We also looked at the threats to culture being a lack of education in our culture, migration without integration, and a couple of other pieces that we were looking at that were not so obvious, which would have been like third spaces, the absence of women's third spaces. And we were talking about Kay's Fabrics and how Kay's Fabrics used to be a place where all of our grannies used to go, and that was like one of the places where you'd catch up, you'd go and you'd talk to the old ladies, and including my grandmother and the most recently late Miss Alice. And it was one of the places that women connected. It was a third space, right? So third spaces being spaces other than church, other than work and home. And of course, the decline of the prevalence of church in people's lives has also made a huge difference. So the conversation then shifted to what do we do now? And what do we as women, what can we be responsible for? And there's actually some cool things to talk about because I feel like women are uniquely placed to have an impact on culture. Now, I'm tempted to actually just publish this and put this somewhere because it's a discussion that I think needs to be wider and talked about more. But the gist of it was, it's our responsibility to recognize culture where it is, because we sometimes don't even know that it's culture. We sometimes just see something that we do every day and not realize, oh, my grandmother taught me that, and my grandmother's grandmother taught her that, and her grandmother taught her that, and all the ladies in the district had a version of doing this. And so we forget that this is actually a cultural feature. Or we don't know it. We don't recognize it as such. It's just something we've always done. We've taken it for granted. So our first job is to recognize it. Our second job is to record it, which is where we talked about in Books and Bush Tea last week when we had Dr. Stephanie Fullerton Cooper come on to talk about writing and why we need women to write. So that is going to be an interesting conversation to continue. And then finally, not only should we recognize, record, we should also require. We need to require that when you come to our house, you live by the house rules. And then we need to require education and we need to require integration. And those are things that we need to be talking about as very constructive discussions. But first, we need to define what it is. So culture, books, always connected. That was one of the things we did today. But we always kind of catch up on what reading was like for this week. This week, I started a new book. I am in love with this book. It is called The Orchid and the Dandelion. And it has been stunning. So one of the things that I love about it is not a fiction book. It's a book about children. It's written by a pediatrician. I'm going to look it up right now because if I freeze, don't worry about it. I'm here. It's why sensitive people struggle and how all can thrive. And that's a little bit too simple, but it's really explaining to me just how sensitivity and certain types of, like they say, 1 in 5 children is an orchid child, which means that they're significantly impacted by their environment. And so you have dandelions that do well everywhere, but never really super excel and never really like fall below a certain type of performance. But these children are almost like canaries in the coal mines. So you can hear that something is wrong with an environment if you actually identify your orchid children and see how they're performing. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. It's changing my life. I think I may be an orchid, but I may not. We'll see. And I also started a new one. I went back to my old genre because I'm like, you know what? The world is going to hell. Bombs are over Baghdad. Not quite Baghdad, but, Tehran. And I needed a bit of a break and a palate cleanse from Red Rising, which I've told you I had to put down a little while ago because I'm just like, world fatigue is what I called it. But now I'm thinking it's actually the real world that's fatigued me. But this happens sometimes, right? Sometimes you just need to like shift gears and lighten up what you read, because the purpose of reading, if it's going to edify you, if it's not working for you now, this genre isn't working for you now, it's like time for you to put something else in. It's just like if you notice that you're low on protein and you start eating more eggs, or you need to add more fish to your diet or whatever it is. I find that mentally we also need to be mindful of what we're taking in. And not to say that those books are bad, it's that I'm in love with Red Rising. It's one of my favorite series so far. But for the state that I'm in reaction to the world that I live in, which is probably proving that I'm an orchid child now that I think about it, dear God, please read that book, by the way. I feel like every parent needs to read The Orchid and the Dandelion. It is amazing. It will tell you what's going on with your kids. And how I then moved on to this book now called Thrown in the Dark. So I have been on the hunt, just like how I was telling our viewers to ask for very detailed questions when you're looking for a recommendation for a book. I actually went into one of my groups because I'm on a subreddit that's about fantasy books. I'm on another one that's called Cozy Fantasy. And I think I also have like Facebook groups that I'm part of. Listen, the book world is huge. But I fell in love with this book called Between. And you've heard me talk about it. I probably mention it every single episode. And it's by L.L. Starling. And of course, Between is going to be a series, but only the first one is out, and the second one comes out in November of this year. So, I am going to pre-order. I'm going to have that and I am so ready for that book. I have read Between no less than 15 times in the last year. And I'm like, you know what? It's time for me to find another book that makes me feel this way. So I went into my subreddit and asked for a recommendation. Has anyone finished Between? Can you tell me if there is another book out there that has like a similar feel to it? And they sent me The Orchid and the Dandelion. And you know what? I think they did a good job. This is such a fun book. And apparently it's the first in a closed series. So there are multiple books. And the tone of it is so light and funny and modern and like snarky. And it's comedic. And it's probably romantasy, but I don't know yet. I know it's definitely fantasy, but it's a lot of fun. And this guy is a demon. He's half demon and he thinks he's bad, but everything he's doing in the book is like, no, this is a pretty good guy. And except, of course, he kidnaps this girl who has like tried to steal from him and accidentally absorbs an artifact into her body. I'm not giving you a wee spoilers. This is all in like the first 5 pages. And then they set off on this adventure together. And of course, it's a captor and captive. It's not an enemies to lovers trope. It's more like a captor and captive type trope. And it has been such such a rollicking good time. I highly, highly recommend. If you're looking for something light and you haven't read Between, read Between. If you have read Between, Thrown in the Dark is a good option. And it's, I think, Villains and Virtues is the name of the series, which is so trite. But tonight, we are going to have a good time because we are talking about women. We are talking about our favorite female main characters, our FMCs. And I have return guests from the past that you have already met. And I'm excited to introduce and bring back to the scene, to the stage, Kristina. And we have Harlan, who was in our New Year special. And we have Kayla, who was also part of our Valentine's special. Kayla, you want to get me? Kayla and Kristina were both in the Valentine's special that we had such a good time on. I'm so excited to have you back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
So we gave them a little homework, and I think it's going to be fun because we're going to hear we're bending genres and coming outside of genres and such now. This is not a genre conversation, but we're looking for our favorite female main characters. Carolyn, you know what, ladies? Tell us what you read. Tell us your genres so we can make sure that everyone knows what to expect from this conversation. You want to start, Carolyn?
Okay, so hi guys. So I read a little bit of everything. Definitely, mostly fiction, mostly Caribbean books written by Caribbean authors or books that have Caribbean themes. Not too much into the romantasy, so I kind of feel lost when you guys are talking about your books, but I'll try to follow along as best as I can. But yeah, that's pretty much what I read. And I also love African literature as well.
Kristina, you want to go next?
Okay, so I primarily read romantasy, but I will dabble a little bit in fiction as well. As I was saying when we were backstage, I did do a little bit of a palate cleanser recently from romantasy, and I did read People We Meet on Vacation, which is there's a movie adaptation on Netflix right now. So I did enjoy that. So it took me back to the real world, no dragons, no creatures, no powers, but it was, nice to have that little bit of a change. But now I'm back in a new romantasy series. So romantasy is definitely my main genre.
Yeah. What you got, Kayla?
Romantasy, all the way. I'll read other things. I'm capable of it, but I tend to read romantasy.
The last time we talked, you were like taking a small foray into dark romance, right? Was it you?
Yeah,
it was you, right?
Bit. I'm struggling through it though. I also haven't been reading as much as I think I should be. So I have not made it through Quicksilver just yet. But yeah, just putting my toe in the water.
Not a fan of Quicksilver, like I said before, but I get it. I'm so glad.
I apologize in advance. Ray-Ban has already started barking.
I should show you Khonshu. Khonshu sleeps next to me. He's right there. And you'll hear him
Such
snore.
a good boy.
You might see a cat walk across right here. So we have.
And Carolyn got her little babies too. So we're all about
They're fast asleep though.
As you should be, right?
This is our bedtime. I tell you.
I
this
know.
Is our bedtime.
I know. We're keeping you up. That's okay though. This is book conversation. So tonight we're talking female main characters. And each one of you ladies has identified some female main characters that you love and why you love them. And I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have like a general conversation first. Like, what do you look for in a female main character? Like, what makes a female main character your favorite? Hearing a man somewhere as well as a dog.
Yeah, I know. So I'm having a noisy house. They can hear you too, babe.
Oh, that's okay. All good. Well, just checking in to make sure, like, because if he's dealing with a dog, I get it. Okay, guys, who's first?
I can go.
Go.
Okay, so, I I look for the character to be interesting, like somewhat interesting. A lot of the romantasy books I read follow a lot of the same tropes. And so I'm looking for that little something that puts them in a class of their own. Usually you have the same kind of, young female, some type of powers, some type of strange world kind of story. Um, but I think the two that I've chosen have, I think, a little bit something special about them that I like. So I'm looking for, like in one of the characters I've chosen, she leans into her anger and she is searching for her own freedom and her own power and leans into that.
Okay.
And the other one, I think has a lot of the tropes, a lot of the same things, like freedom. She's looking for freedom. She's also leaning into her power, because I think a lot of books also have a fear of feminine power, whereas these two characters, I think, lean into their power.
Got it. What do you look for, Carolyn?
It's funny that you say that, Kayla, because my chosen FMC for tonight is all about freedom. And it's one of the things I find a common thread through what I look for is for that FMC to be vulnerable, but also know their own power, right? I find, when I think of that question, I'm like, do I really look for anything? Because I try to go into books with a completely open mind.
Yeah.
But I find that if the character is a bit whiny, does not know themselves, and that there's no development towards knowing themselves, because that's fine at the beginning, right? But there must be some change, like they're figuring out themselves. If there's not that, I will put the book down. I cannot deal with that. So I like my female main characters to be interesting, yes, very vulnerable, because that's the human side of us, but also know their own power and be able to step into that towards at least the 3/4, the end of the novel.
What you think, Kristina? What you look for?
I completely agree. I try to go into most books without any real expectations. Like I said on the Valentine show, that me and my friend Sophie have really gotten into romantasy together. So a lot of the series that I end up reading are actually recommendations from her, other than some of the big ticket ones that are very popular on Book Talk, etc. But again, I like character development, like it was just said, if the character is whiny, I just really can't get into it. If the character is very helpless, I just can't get into it either. I really do want to see character development. Like I like when the FMC starts, she's coming from abuse or trauma or something like that, and then she really finds herself. And then again, because I'm reading romantasy, there's usually there is a partnership that happens at some point in the book, but then the partner is also empowering her and letting her be a strong woman and helping her along that developmental path.
I think I'm going to weigh in on mine as well, because I feel like I'm a participant in this particular show. Like, I notice that I do not like a perfect FMC. I get super bored with someone who is angelic and perfect. And similarly, I get super, super irritated. Like I'm thinking about, the book Light Lark. I love Light Lark. Excellent book. Horrible FMC. That little girl would drive me crazy. Like I just wanted to take her by the hair and just like there's the immaturity. And I don't know if it's meant to be a YA, but I actually usually like YA. I usually like YA. But I just could not get into it. I could not get into it with her. Like she annoyed me. She really annoyed me. Yeah, the whiny one I didn't like. I like one of the things I like though, and I love that Carolyn mentioned this, is the vulnerability. So I'm okay with you being vulnerable but not whiny. So as a character, and I'm starting to wonder if this is also how I choose my friends. Everything would make sense, right? But I just don't. I find that I need them to be. I like YA as long as they're growing, like you said, Carolyn. But
Mhm.
and by YA, by the way, for our listeners, YA means young adult fiction, and some of the best writing I think that exists in the world is for young adults. It's not the spicy stuff necessarily, because it's, that would not be for young adults. But
Mhm.
like, for instance, I think Harry Potter is considered to be young adult
It
YA.
is. Yes.
I know, like, Percy Jackson is considered to be YA, but this Light Lark series was YA. I think Aragon was a YA, but some of these are like pretty intense. They're just as compelling as adult fiction. But
Mhm.
I notice what I don't like. I'm not sure. I think I'll probably glean a little bit more when we actually get into the FMCs, because I think I've changed my mind about which FMCs I'm going to also share. So yeah, I don't know. Like, who do you? I have a question, because this is one of the things that I have been curious about this month, especially after last week when we met with Dr. Fullerton Cooper. We were speaking about the voice that women bring to their writing and how it's different. How do you find women written by men to be different than women written by women? Do you find that to be so? Open
I can't even
season.
think of anything I've read recently that has even been written by a man, sadly. So I I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, romanticy is very heavily authored by females.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We talked about that in length last month, but yeah, people we meet on vacation, it's Emily Henry, right? Let me double check. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I think
Emily
so.
Henry. So I can't even tell you the last time I've read something by a man.
I'm thinking like Red Rising. I think that
Mm-hmm.
might be the last book I've read that's written by a man. And I'm thinking of his female characters that I find that sometimes they lack a little bit of depth. Um, I find that women written by women, or
Ah,
actually not even depth, I think maybe like realism. I think like thought patterns and um, like day-to-day things in the books are a
uh-huh.
little bit more realistic when women are written by women.
Yeah. Yeah, like no woman gets a period in a book written by a man.
No, those don't
You
exist.
know, I one of the books that I've read recently, from one of my favorite author, who is a male author, and I don't read many books written by men, but this is a Caribbean male author. He has Caribbean heritage. His name is P. Jelly Clark,
Mm-hmm.
and he writes fantasy. Uh, Not so much fantasy. It's more magical realism that he
Mm-hmm.
writes into his books and fiction. And I think all of his books are female main characters, and they're all well written.
Mm.
They're all realistic. They're all strong women. They're everything you'd want in a female character. And he's like one of the only male authors I can read and be like, yeah, I completely forget that it's a man
Mm-hmm.
who's right. I'm reading the story and completely forget that it's a man who's writing it, and I love that.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying too, Kayla, about Red Rising, because it's almost like he put the women on pedestals or he put them in the gutter. He never had an in between woman,
Mhm.
and it wasn't super guttery. It wasn't very guttery at all. But the villainous women were very evident, very like dry, and there was not a lot of that. But Carolyn, I think
Mhm.
the best male written females I've ever read have been Caribbean writers. I found that oh my goodness, the guy that wrote Brief History of Seven Killings,
Marlon James.
Marlon James.
Marlon James
Yeah.
writing of women is so detailed, but he is so gritty too.
Very gritty.
He's so
Very
gritty.
gritty.
Like, he's like the
He can be
Stephen
a
King
very
of the
hard
Caribbean.
read.
Yeah, but I find that he actually captures it, and I also wonder too, like, I think Stephen King did a decent job with some women, but not all. Like there were some of them that were, you can tell that women are mysteries to men, just to a lot of male writers.
Or even like Sanderson, like Brandon Sanderson. I started
Mhm.
Mistborn, and
Yeah.
I did like the FMC,
There they go.
but
One sec.
Hold on.
Sorry, go ahead. You liked Mistborn, but
I started Mistborn, but I couldn't quite get through it.
she was a shallow character. I struggled with her. I struggled with her as well. And actually, that series is a DNF for me in the end. It's I hear you on that one. But what flaws? Go ahead.
I hear you have to get through like half of the first book to really get into the, the like universe. And I don't think I got there. So maybe I haven't given it a fair chance.
It was very adventurous, and I don't like this is me responding on vibes. Like I'm because this was a long time ago for me reading the Mistborn series. But you know who also wrote women well is the guy that did Game of Thrones.
George R. Martin.
Yes, I think he did a great job, and I think he did a great job with the complexity of female relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wondered just how he got to be so. Some writers, you're like, what made you get there? Like what made you so good at this? Like John Grisham, I always thought John Grisham had to have laundered money at some point, and Tom Clancy had to be a spy. But flaws too. Like I know I started that conversation by saying it. My female main characters need to have flaws. They can't be perfect. Do you have any favorite flaws?
That's a hard question.
Yeah.
That is a hard question.
There was this controversial book that I read, Queenie. I don't know if you guys have read that
I've
one.
heard of it, yeah.
Heard of it.
Yes. Queenie, who was also the main character, female main character, was everything I hated about a female main character, and I loved her. She was a bit whiny. She didn't quite know herself. And there was a bit of character development, not enough for me, but I just saw this week that the author is coming out with another book titled Queenie's working on it. So I'm looking forward to that one. But she had so many flaws where when she lost herself, she'd lose herself into a man, right? And it's not, that was her vice, and that was her way. But to me, it came across, she just gave up her power completely to these men without any thought of herself. And I looked at that as a big flaw, and yet I love Queenie. I was rooting for her. I was, rooting for her to figure it all out. And she did get there sort of in the end, but I'm looking forward to the next book. But that's one character with a whole lot of flaws, but I still ended up loving her.
Yeah. So that
because
was
I was rooting for the underdog,
Yeah, there's a talent of that writer to actually bring someone that you would normally not like and sell them to you, really, like seduce you, have them seduce you. Go, Kayla. You look like you got something on your tip of your tongue.
I was thinking, so the first thing that came to mind is self-doubt. Like, could that count as a flaw?
Yeah, I mean, it's a gap, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think, but usually that's resolved by the end of the book, like they doubt themselves for a while and then eventually lean into their power. So I was still thinking about what is another flaw I might, maybe obsession with their like partnerships. I find that to be a flaw, but I don't think it's my favorite by any means.
Yeah.
Like
I have a couple, so if you're still thinking about it and you want to jump in after, I love a female male character with a problem communicating. because
Oh.
I don't like when main characters carry all the weight of the communication. So it's almost like women in male dominated fields. Like Aelin Galathynius is my favorite thing about her, is that no one knows what she's up to and she ain't telling you. Right? Like, I love that. That's one flaw I like. There's another one that I like, which is oh gosh, I was thinking of someone earlier.
There's a cat.
Scarlett O'Hara was one of my favorite characters. That is one of the best characters that are developed. And it's so funny because it became a part of the whole culture race war in the US. Whereas I feel like it is such a factual representation of that way of thinking that it's instructive to both sides of that discussion. And Scarlett O'Hara explained my grandmother to me. The way that character was developed, her flaw was that she did not like to look at herself. She was a brilliant woman, very, very intelligent, but intentionally would put any form of introspection on a shelf to come back to later and never go back to it. And that to me made her such a compelling character, because you would just like, for goodness sake, just look at the shelf, right? So there's things, and I love when a writer can share the flaw and have you see it and it not be obvious to the client and it still be believable. The client, the protagonist or the character, and it still be believable, right? I don't know if that gave you a little bit more to work with. Kristina, your thoughts on it?
Well, the series that I'm into right now, which now that I think about it, it was a very similar thing, even in People We Meet on Vacation, which, like I said, was my kind of foray out of romantasy recently. Both of the female main characters, so the current romantasy series that I'm reading is called Artifacts of Oranos. Not a very well-known series. Great author, definitely very, very underhyped. And the main character there, she's coming from a really bad situation, lost her family very young, ended up being imprisoned, abused, having to do lots of nefarious things in order to survive, like that type of background. So then she became this loner and almost, wouldn't take any assistance when the assistance started to come along. And I feel like that is a trend a lot of times with female main characters. Like, they want to be independent, but then the independence actually ends up kind of, shooting them in the foot at some point, because nobody is an island. You do need the help. You do need assistance. You do need a team, And so I'm not really sure if that's a character flaw truly, but that is something that I am noticing in this series, even though she's coming around and, accepting some help now that we're in. It's a 4-book series. It's a completed series. So for anyone listening that's interested, it's not going to leave you on a cliffhanger and then you have to wait 2 years for the next book. It is completed. I'm almost done with the 3rd book now. So her character is, slowly coming around to accepting help and using the good people around her. But for the first 2 books, it was very, don't look at me, don't talk to me, I don't need you, I can do everything on my own.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That's a common one, isn't it? It's almost like a trope. But there are other flaws as well. Kayla, you got more? Are you thinking, no?
Hey, I need more.
I think I have another one too, I'm thinking about Elizabeth Zott. And I think that her flaw, you know what it is? I like grumpy characters. And it's not just her. There's another one too called Emily Wilde. Emily, and that's the compendium of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Fairy Wars, or whatever. She has these 3 different books, and they're really good. And it was kind of like this. There's a book as well. Someone is Completely Fine. I'm trying to remember what her name was. Is Completely Fine. I'm trying to remember the name of this book. It's like Eleanor Oliphant is completely.
Eleanor Oliphant.
Is that what it is? Eleanor Oliphant? Is that her name?
There was hang on.
It's completely fine. She has a similar character to Emily Wilde, just grumpy, and
Yeah, that was the one, Eleanor Oliphant.
not
Yeah.
complaining. They're not complaining. They're just their view of the world is like, everyone's annoying, get out of my face. You know what I mean? But in Eleanor's, she was always misinterpreting social cues. So I like the misreading of the world is also one that I like, and like the flaw in the female character, because I feel it just humanizes the character. These flaws, I don't know why this is a favorite thing for me, but clearly I have a long list of flaws that I like in my characters.
So maybe it's not flaws then. Because when you say flaws, for me, I'm thinking what is completely wrong with them that I don't like.
Yeah.
So a quirk of your female main character. Okay.
It's not a strength, it's a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
That adds to their
character,
the roundness of the character,
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I love my flawed FMCs, clearly. So let's get into your favorites. I would love for you to. We've kind of thrown some names around already, but I would love to hear like who your favorite FMCs are and why. And I guess we can do a round and each one of us do one and see how far we get.
I really only have one for tonight.
That's good.
And Annika, you know that this is my favorite book. So it had to come from my favorite book. And it's Poppy Show by Leonie Ross.
Such a good book.
It is such a good book. It's fiction. It's magical realism. It talks about Poppy Show is the name of an archipelago of islands somewhere out there. It doesn't state that it's a Caribbean, but it's very Caribbean flavored.
Yeah.
Right?
With all the languages of the Caribbean too is so good. That's one of the best.
Everything. The language, the area, the birds, the plants, it's very Caribbean flavored.
Columbia women.
Oh yes. That's one of the thing about this one. So, often Obi women are villainized in our culture per se, not just in fiction, but in our culture. And in Poppy Show, Obi women are revered, right? They are medicine women, they are elders, they are culture keepers. And they're very well respected. So you hear Obi woman and it's not any, oh my gosh, going behind, in the dark to go see this Mother Rose or Mother Ruby. No, it's very much they have their temple. People bring their problems to them, bring their kids to be blessed, and so it changes the language around. So Obi women are very much respected in this book. And my favorite female character from this is one of the lead characters called Anise Latibaudiere. And let me just read you something about Poppy Show so you kind of get an idea. Everyone in Poppy Show was born with a little something. Boy, a little something extra. The local name was Cores. Magic, but more than magic. A gift now? Yes, from the gods. A thing so inexpressibly your own. So everyone in Poppy Show is has their own special cores or their own special magic. And the female main character, her special magic is she's a healer. And she's able to look at someone, touch someone, and know exactly what their ailments are. And the cores this magic normally shows up when they're young. And it showed up for her when she was young. And all she could do, she could look at someone and be like, oh my gosh, they're stuffy. Or she'd go around and laugh at people like, oh my God, he's got an itchy butt. Or he's, something mundane as that. But as she grows up, she's able to detect like cancer, diabetes, anything like, and she's able to heal. So not only does she know what their ailments are, she's able to heal. Um, Anise, and she was a pastor's kid. She was a
Mhm.
pastor's daughter. And living in Poppy Show, her dad was a Christian. And Poppy Show had all these other gods, right? That the Obi woman and everybody else, everybody is assigned a god, or
Mhm.
this is their god. But her in her household, it was just Christianity. But what I loved about Anise, even from a young age, she was very curious. She was questioning. She didn't just take this as, okay, this is my dad's faith, and so this is what I'm going with. She's like, no, but Daddy, why is that your only God when everybody else has other gods?
Mhm.
And she questioned, and I love that about her. She was curious. She was very outspoken even as a child. And I must say, looking back now at the book, um, her parents didn't try to silence her in a
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
And I think that was the Poppy Show way. People were allowed to be free, and that was Anissa's thing. All she wanted was to be free. So she was a healer, and she suffered pregnancy loss, 4 pregnancy losses. Um, with her husband, and she never could figure out why. And the way the author expressed the grief that Anise felt from
Yes.
this, it was
Yes.
so real.
Yes.
Like, her grief was my grief. I felt everything she was going through. And I love that characterization of her. And Anise, one of the things that she struggled with was that she was a healer, yet she couldn't heal herself.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
couldn't heal herself. And, she questioned the gods. She even said, oh, is this a punishment from not not only loving my father's God,
Mhm.
who is a jealous God, is this why? And it was all these questions. And it was so human and so natural. And these are the things that women question when they go through the loss of a child. They're like, okay, is it a punishment? Is it
Yeah.
a punishment on me? Um,
Yeah.
and Anise also had um, a long lost love interest. Now she was married, and her
Now
long lost
you
love
need to give the
interest.
spoilers now. You need people go read that book to catch that part.
Okay, they're going to catch
Love
that
that
part.
one.
Okay, I
Love
won't.
that one. Love that one.
I won't give them the spoiler. I
But can
won't
I
give
give?
them the
I'm
spoiler.
gonna give one spoiler though, just because I have to. My favorite part is when
Which one?
Braps her pum pum fall out. Best part of that book. That I was like,
That,
what?
yes, yes.
I'm not even gonna explain that. You all have to read that book. And
No,
ladies who are into
no. And
romance, I think you'd like it.
this is what I was saying. You can't. I can't even do this book justice. So I could even give you spoilers, and it would not matter. You
Yeah, that
would
book is
have to
amazing.
go and experience this book for yourself. But what I loved about Anise was her vulnerability, her ability to question herself and reflect on her actions and the world around her as well.
Yeah,
And I just loved how giving she was, how
yeah,
giving, how forgiving, and how loyal she was as a friend.
yeah,
Um, and the complexities of how she expressed her grief. But within expressing her grief, she could still manage to show up for others.
mhm.
And I love that about her. And she will always be one of my favorite female main characters in everything that I read.
And now
I'll
we're
always come back to Anise.
in love with her too. I really liked her as well, and she
Yeah.
was bald as well, wasn't she?
She
Yeah,
because
she was
her
bald.
hair, she felt like her
Mhm.
hair was interfering with her healing. It was just it was a distraction.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I
she
love how much you know
completely.
her as well because I've read Puppet Show multiple times and she was not my favorite character. But
I love
but
Anise.
I now that you're describing her to me in a way that I don't even recognize her. Like that's I get it.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, so I can hear that she really was special to you.
She was. She was.
Who's up next?
I can go.
Go.
So one of the characters I chose was, let me dust off the book a little bit. Freya in A Fate Inked in Blood.
Oh, I love that name. That's all I need. Go on.
Yeah. So have you read it?
No. But I love the name because remember, I
Okay.
mean, my tattoo, my cat. Freya is very
I
special.
I think you especially will love this book. So as I established in the last episode I was on, I am a vibe reader. So when I finish reading books, a lot of the time I can remember how I felt more than the events of the book. Um, so Freya starts out the book in an arranged marriage, hiding her power. So she is blessed by a god, and she's told to hide her power because she'll be used. Um, Eventually, the power comes to light. She gets out of that marriage. I won't give any spoilers to how that happens. Um, and she does end up being a warrior, with the fate of the kingdom in her hands. So the story follows her as she trains and learns to control her magic and faces like moral conflicts because of how her power is being used, and she's conflicted in what she does with it, but she's in a really tight spot. And so I really enjoyed just her as a person. She's incredibly stubborn. She really, like, she's fierce and she's very emotionally intense.
Yeah.
But she really is striving for her own freedom and agency, and that's the entire book basically. But I really, really love that character, so I would encourage anyone to read that book.
Sounds like is she based at all on the Norse Freya?
Oh yeah. The book is based in a Viking world.
Oh.
Is it a
So
series
Anarchy is
or
sold.
a
there
standalone?
there are currently 2 books in the series. I actually have the second one, but I haven't finished reading it yet.
Ooh,
But it's
that sounds like
very,
my
very
jam.
cool. It is definitely your gem. I loved it. I think this was one of the books, when you pick up a book and then you just read it all in like a day or
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
This was one of those.
I'm gonna put it on my TBR. I'm loving that Goodreads now has a DNF list on there. I don't know if you know that, but you can
That's
actually.
it.
Yeah. So I'm really happy about that too.
I use
Quick Goodreads
Storyboard.
update. We have a new DNF.
I use
Yeah.
Storyboard. Have you seen that? Have you used that?
I've heard about that. I haven't tried it yet, but I've been using Goodreads
Storygraph.
off and on for like the last decade or so. So I think it's like the first one. So
Yeah.
but yeah, Kristina, what you got? Who's your person?
I'm gonna tentatively unmute. I've been staying muted because Ray-Ban is just hot for something tonight.
That's okay, that's fine.
So my FMC is the character that I mentioned earlier, Lore. So she is the main character in the Artifacts of Orano series. So it starts off with Trial of the Sun Queen. And so it starts off with trials. So again, like I said, she comes from this very sad background. Her parents were not died, killed when she was quite young, and then she ended up being imprisoned with her brother and sister, and so they're imprisoned for majority of her developmental years. She is an older FMC. I air quote older because she's 24, but that's still an improvement, for most romantics, the FMCs.
They just
And
keep them
so
they keep them under Leonardo DiCaprio's cutoff age.
yeah, and I mean, I guess a lot of them are like assassins and stuff like that too. So I mean, I guess once you're over 25 and your joints start creaking, you can't sneak up on anybody. So maybe that's some of it too.
Says
But
the physiotherapist. By the way, both of you are physiotherapists. It did not occur to me. I'm on a call with all healthcare professionals. This is great.
Who
A nurse
else is the physio?
and two
so yeah, it's
physiotherapists.
it's harder to be an assassin when your joints are creaking. But so she formative years in prison, she's taken out for this trial. So again, it is a fantasy world. There's all of these different kingdoms, so she's put into the trial for the Sun Queen. So the Sun King is looking for a wife, and so it starts off very trials and high stakes, etc. It actually has a lot of tropes in it, because there's also enemies to lovers and fated mates. She has this spark almost immediately with this prince from like another realm, and he knows obviously about fated mates, but she doesn't, because she grew up without parents. She doesn't even like realize that she has powers and things like that. All of these things have to be discovered down the line. He knows this, but again, he doesn't want to like push the situation, because he wants her to end up with him and love him for him. So it's all like that as well. So then very, very slow burn. So like the second book, and you can see the books get progressively thicker. That's another thing with romantasy too, right? You fly through the first book and then they just get like progressively thicker. And now the third one is like even thicker. And we haven't even, this is the final book, but we haven't even gotten there yet. But as I said before, it is a completed series, and this character is really, really developing. Like, she's coming into her powers now. Obviously, she's realized that the Aurora Prince is her mate, and so she's finally letting him in and letting him help her. But at the same time, he's very kind of Rhysand-esque, like, yeah, boo, you're a strong, powerful woman. I'll just be right here if you need me. And there's a lot of things happening now in the third book that's, I'm sure, setting up for some big, big excitement in the fourth. But again, really what I liked with her is she came from nothing. Like I said, abuse, very independent, but also siloed. And she's growing as a person. She's learning her powers, and she's finally letting people help her on this quest, because again, without giving away too much of the story, she actually is a descendant of a royal family, but doesn't realize like the big role that she has to play in saving her world, essentially. So.
Oh wow!
That so sounds... it's a great series. And to also plug it a little bit further, the author is a woman of color. Her name is Nisha Tooley. She is. I didn't even realize she was of Indian descent until. Like the different kingdoms obviously have, different climates and different types of food and whatever. And then when she got to the Aurora Kingdom and she's like meeting with the prince that is, ultimately her mate, his like servant starts serving the food, and then she's just describing the food, and I was like, they are 100% eating samosas and naan right now. Wow. And then when I looked it up, she is of Indian descent. But like I literally read it and I was like, they are totally eating samosas.
Yeah. Sometimes that sneaks up on you. I love it when like a character, even like the race of the character and stuff, or even the race of the writer isn't clear until like you're almost to the end of the book, because it's not supposed to be a feature. The story is bigger than that. I love that. Yeah. In our conversations, I've actually switched my character multiple times, like the person that I have as my FMC, and I am actually going to go with one that I've never heard anyone talk about ever. Her name is Ropa Moyo. She is from Scotland, and her parents are from Zimbabwe, and she is living in a post-apocalyptic Edinburgh. And she is finding out about magic. I read the entire series, bit after bit after bit. I'll tell you what's weird about it, right? She's a thief. She's a bit of a brigand, right? But what she does for a living is she's been in a gang. This child grew up rough in a camper van with her grandmother and her younger sister, and she's responsible for caring for them. And she is 15 years old at the beginning of this series. What I love about her is, first of all, the entire book is written in her voice, and it is written in street slang from Edinburgh, like proper street slang. And I actually listened to this book. So it is a whole lot. For those of you who don't know, for anyone who doesn't really know much about like British slang, Edinburgh slang and Glasgow slang is a whole other animal. I lived up north, so it wasn't super impenetrable for me, and it's not that hard to pick up. And what I loved about her is that this is a little girl growing up who is going through hardship, who is determined to make her own way and not to be a burden and to provide. She has all of these noble goals, and she's being disappointed by colonialism, and that's a big theme in it, but not on purpose. You don't realize it until later. And she's disappointed in the adults in her life. And by the time you get to the last book, I think she might be 20. She might be about 18, 19, 20, like in those age groups. And you see her develop her view of the world. And that is the part that I loved about her, of this character. She's curious, she's brilliant, she's powerful. And she is taking her knocks as a kid and growing with it, like really expanding her view of the world, and also more honest in her language. She's reflecting the world without actually thinking about the themes too much, but the themes are so bright and obvious, and she's such a pragmatic character. Ropa Moyo. It's written by, so the book's name is, the first book is The Library of the Dead. It is not a romantasy, but it is a hell of a fantasy series. And it's also housed in all of these different state homes, like old estates in Scotland, and actually also in England. And there's like a civil war going on between magicians, and some interesting things happening in this book. There's also a very disappointing male character, and that's all I'm going to say. But you just want to kill him at the end. You just want to kill him. He's a little boy, but you want him dead. And I felt ashamed for that feeling, but not enough to stop wanting to kill him. She's an amazing character. I highly recommend her because, the author is a guy by the name of Tendai Huchu, who is a Zimbabwean guy, as far as I'm aware, and has grown up and lived in Edinburgh all of his life. I found this book in Canada. I found book 2 and I picked it up by accident because I usually only buy the first book. And I fell in love with this book so bad. I just bought all of them one time. It was so good because the character, and the entire book is in her voice. The entire book. So the entire series is in her voice. And she's just a scrappy little vicious little fox of a child. And I just I love it. She's my favorite. Yes, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing our favorite female characters and celebrating Women's Month, because that's what this is about. We're acknowledging what we love and what we can't manage about our own folks and how they're written and how we write them. So thank you very much, and I'm hoping to have you all back soon.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Have a lovely night. Good night, Cayman.
Good night.